everyone, and thanks for joining us once again here on Four Friends in the Book podcast. My name is Chris Colston, and of course, I'm here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, LaReal Reed, and once again, we are Four Friends in a Book. So, look, if you're tuning in for the very first time, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. So, we meet here to discuss that book, to review it, to just talk about it and things that may or may not relate to it. So we like to consider ourselves a book club mixed with book reviews. Also, we'll just table talk amongst friends. And of course, at the end, we hit you with a rant from Mr. Rant Man himself. Look at him, Isaiah Tukes, where we give him 60 seconds to kind of speak from his heart and just speak whatever's on his mind. So again, if you guys haven't already, go back, get current and caught up with Four Friends in the Book. We have great book discussions, great book reviews, and just good table talk over here with some friends. And so go back, check us out, get current, get caught up here on Four Friends in the Book. And also, look, if you have any book recommendations, we would love to hear from you guys. So hit us up in the DM, send us a message. Any books you guys are reading that you think are awesome. Share that information with us here on our book club. We'd love to add that to our collection, and also just add it to our review list for the year. Also, any topics you may have that you want us to discuss here on Four Friends in the Book, we love to hear that from you guys. So give us some good feedback. We want to hear from y'all. All right, so let's get into it. Look, man, we February, Black History Month.
Yeah,
Look, you know they trying to stop us over here. It's a lot going on right now, but look, we still they can't stop the train. We still celebrating. We still in the movement. And here on Four Friends in the Book, we are all about Black history. So we are definitely gonna celebrate and just enjoy it. And so Black History Month, we got a Black author that's he a little heavy. Kiese Layman, Heavy is a book for February. Look, Isaiah has been preaching this book up for years.
With an S.
Thank God. We're ready.
He has been talking about this book, and we finally added it to our book club here on Four Friends in the Book. And so that is our book for the month of February 2025, Heavy by Kiese Layman. Look, Mississippi representative. So you know your boy from Mississippi. So look, we got a Mississippi author in here, but he really just goes over his life story, some of his trials and tribulations of just childhood growing up in Mississippi, also just matriculating through childhood, puberty, kind of body image issues, depression, kind of finding himself. Getting into college, just the ups and downs and the roller coasters of life, and dealing with addiction, weight loss, eating disorders, like a whole bunch of stuff. He goes into a lot of different aspects of his life. And this book, where he really is kind of just writing a letter to his mother, kind of detailing his life story. And so, again, the book for the month of February, Heavy by Kiese Layman. And so we're going to get into it, man. We're going to talk about this book. We're going to unpack it. We're going to discuss it real good. And look, y'all already know what the first question is. And look, I'm going to start with my brother because he's been talking about
you need to let him go last.
You think so?
I think he needs to go last because we already know how he halfway feels about this.
Yeah,
book.
we kind of do. All right, so we'll switch it up because I already know what he kind of feels about this book because he's been selling us for years about, hey, we got to read this book. So with that being said, all right, I'm gonna come to you, LaReal. Let's let you kick this one off.
Okay.
And look, make sure you save some time for Isaiah because I'm pretty sure he got a laundry list of stuff he want to talk about on this book.
I promise I won't be that long.
So first question, if you had to rate this book on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And overall, just what did you think about the book?
Okay, I'm gonna do it backwards. I'm gonna talk about overall, then I'm gonna give it the rating. So for me, Heavy, and the reason why I was so hesitant every time Isaiah talked about the book, the title itself made me feel like, okay, this is gonna be heavy. And I don't want to read heavy, I want to read light because I feel like the world is so heavy anyway. And then in our climate now, I was like, oh God. So now we got to read it. But let me say, this man articulated everything so well. He's very intelligent. He made me feel like I was everywhere he spoke about, but it was sensory overload for me. I'm telling y'all, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, what? It was like he was just coming with the 1-2 punches the whole book. It never, it wasn't like a slow down time where we just kind of like, okay. It was like, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, I need to start writing down what's happening, what I'm reading and listening to, because I listen on Audible, because it was so much stuff over and over and over. So for me, it was a bit much. In the best way, though, because he's extremely brilliant. Very smart. The issues that he spoke about, great. Everything, but it was like that thing never let up. From him being a kid to 12 years old, Ottawa. And I'm just thinking, like, are we gonna get a break for a second? This ain't gonna be a time to, just pause for a minute and have a when you read a book, it normally kind of has, it's mountains and it's plateau time. And it wasn't I just felt like we was high the whole time, just up. It was just up the whole time for me. But at the same time, when I'm listening and I even went and read some of what he was, I was like, man, now it was very well written. Like I said, very descriptive. I felt like I was with him. The issues that he discussed, amazing. From his weight issues, it was crazy how the book just went along with the emotional sense of him as well as the physical sense of him. I enjoyed it. It's a good book, but for me, it was a lot. It was because I'm very sensitive when I'm reading, because I'm already very visual. So I already feel like I'm wherever you are. So for me, it was a lot, but it was great. So I will give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.
All right, so kicking off heavy by Kiese Layman with Miss Laria Reed. Starting off with an 8. So look, we already know what Isaiah going to be talking about. So I'm going to come to Kim next on this. What are your thoughts about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be?
Okay, heavy is heavy. The title really encompasses the book. It really is heavy. Like Laria says, I felt like I was like Queen Latifah to set it off when she was getting shot up. It was just left, right. The opening scene of the book, I was like, good God.
Like, yes.
I was like, oh, it's heavy. It is raw. But like Laria said, he really is a great writer. Like he really writes really well. I'm glad his mom was working with him and everything, because he really is a brilliant writer.
Yes.
Very descriptive, but it was just so raw. And I'm like, Laria, I'm very visual. So I'm like, I'm reading it and I'm picturing it. I'm like, look, I don't want to see all that. But it's like, it was a lot. But I think that he was very forthcoming with this story. It's just heavy. It's heavy. I listened to it. Now I would not listen or read the book again. But I thought that it was well written. And if I were to rate it, I'll also give it an 8, actually. So I would give it an 8. I thought he wrote it very well. I just wouldn't listen to it again because it is heavy, as the title says. So
okay. All right. So we got 2 8s from the ladies. Heavy by Kiese Layman. So as I mentioned as we started, Isaiah has been talking about this book for forever. I was honestly afraid of the book because people are like describe something, they use the same word, like man, it's just heavy. Like it's like a one-word description. People like, man, it's real. Like, man, it's rough. And Isaiah just kept saying, it's heavy, it's heavy. I'm like, man, it's the title of the book. You don't got nothing else? Like, no, it's heavy. It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Exactly.
So I was really afraid of the book. But honestly, so you guys, I do agree there were points in the book that were pretty deep. But Isaiah had me a little more afraid than I really was after listening to it. So it was heavy, it was deep, but I still feel like this is just the life story of so many people in our community.
That's so true.
And it was so relatable to me. Again, he's from Mississippi. He talks about growing up in Jackson, like all these places. I lived in Jackson for a few years. Like all these places he's talking about, like I've been there. I'm familiar with them. And just I haven't personally gone through the things that he's gone through, but I know people that have, and I just also know this is the story of so many like black and brown people, and some white people as well, like that have grown up in the South during that time period. I mean, he's talking about the '90s and just still some of the racial tensions of again being in Mississippi, being very smart, educated, but also feeling like you can't really stand out too much. Um, Still battling some of just the racial disparities of the black and white thing, dealing with interracial dating, his first sexual experience. It's just like all these things, battling weight, getting a body image and stuff. It was a lot, but again, I just feel like this is the life of so many people, and I feel like he did a great job of capturing not only his life but the life of others in his book. And I really applaud him for his transparency and just being so like open to share his experience, to share his story. Like good, bad, ups and down. And he uses the word heavy as well. And that's kind of a common theme where he talks about heavy, not only with just his life, but also his weight, which is something that he kind of struggled with throughout his life and kind of captured or was the mainstay within his book. I think I agree with you guys. I would probably rate it as an 8 as well. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm a Mississippi boy, so he talking about Jackson, he talking about Forest, he talking about the casino at the Golden Moon. Like I'm familiar with all this stuff, so it was. I was very connected to his story. I was intrigued. There were some difficult moments, but again, I just feel like that's a life of so many people, and so for him to put that in a book format. And to convey his story, because I honestly feel like people sometimes think they're on an island and that they're by themselves, and so for him to kind of highlight and showcase some of the things that he's gone through in life and put it in a book format, I think it also just makes people be able to connect with him and also realize that they're not by themselves. So if I had to rate it, I'll give it an 8 as well. For heavy by Mr. Kiese Layman. Look, we probably should skip Isaiah because I know he gonna go with a 10. But I'm gonna give him a few moments to kind of talk about this book. Like I said, he's been hyping it up for years on Four Friends in the Book. So Isaiah, bro, what you think about this book? And if you had to rate it, what would that be?
Well, I want to first start out with saying this is like the third time reading the book since he released it. Kiese Layman is one of my favorite authors. This book is one of my top 3, if not the top book as well too. I related to the book when I first read it because his vulnerability, like Chris said, like we all been in situations, not saying that we live those things, but we've been through some of the stuff that he's been through. And this is the perfect type of, it's just basically heavy. He's been through so many things in his life, but the thing that I've most connected with him about is he overcame the situation, dealing with the addiction with his mother and that complex mother and son relationship that when you read the book, you're going to understand why it's so heavy. Like when his grandmother, he had an addicted uncle, but he still made it. And the thing what I like most about it, even though his family had its ups and downs, he never ridiculed them. He always tried to shine the best light onto them without calling them a lie. Like we all been through some situation, as kids, we can't say lie. To adults as well too, but I like the idea that he just challenges the idea that the words can't fully, convey about, what he wanted to actually say within this book. It just basically you have to read and you have to experience. Every time I read this book, I take something different away from this. Like now, because I recently, and we're going to talk about this soon as well too, like I recently lost my grandmother, and the way that he speaks about his grandmother and the relationship that he had with his grandmother, I connected with that as well too. Like it's just so many different things that you can talk about with this book. I can't entirely explain it. You just basically have to read it, and it actually, this is something this is a book I think you have to experience. It's nothing that we can tell you. You just have to read it. And every page you turn to, like it's something different. Like Laria said, it never stops. It's like a heavy brick on your chest. And you're just walking through life with this guy. But he articulately explains himself of why he went through this situation, what he learned from it, and how he overcame it. And that's what I like about it. Like, he was vulnerable, he was open, he was honest, he didn't paint no facade. I love when authors tell their story, because I always say this: nobody can tell your story like you. And that's what I loved about his book, his vulnerability. It was a page turner. I think because his mom was so hard on him with like the reading and the comprehension, and you need to get this, I think that was a lot of why he was able to articulate so well, within this book, and I can't entirely explain the importance of the book. Like I said, it's something that everyone should experience. I know for me, Kiese knocked it out of the park, and I rate this book a 10.
Okay. So 3 8s, and we already knew he was gonna get a 10 from Isaiah. I mean, that was a given. For Heavy by Kiese Layman. But you guys have kind of all touched on it, which is kind of my last question here on this book about these relationships. Particularly with his mom, even his grandmother, which were kind of, I don't know, it was unique, and Laria really kind of touched on it, because it was kind of like a love hate or a tumultuous situation, almost kind of that child husband type of situation where again, she's a single parent. He kind of mentioned his dad, but I don't think he really had a strong presence in his life. He showed up kind of in the end in adulthood, but their relationship wasn't great, or he wasn't as present. And so I think that created a weird dynamic between him and his mother in his youth. It's kind of want to give you guys thoughts and opinion about the type of relationship they had. And Laria, you really kind of drove it home already, and maybe you can kind of expand on it a little bit more, that situation, because it seemed like their relationship kind of perpetuated into his romantic relationships going forward in other areas as well. So kind of want you guys quick thoughts and opinions about those relationships. And Laria, I kind of come back.
You want me to
go?
Because
you've already kind of touched on it a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But like I said, I just felt like, so this is my thing. Environments matter. And when you're a child growing up, and we all know how environments matter. And for me to hear about how his mom is, he's knowing what his mom is getting ready to go do. She's going to be with this dude, or she's going to do this, or she's going to do that, and leaving him with these predators and these crazy, it's just like all these people, and she's not even asking questions. It was just so like, what is happening here? And then the way that it was like a push pull, like she would fight somebody over him, but then she would be fighting him at the house. And, and he seemed, his personality from us reading his book seems more mild mannered, very witty, very intelligent. So I feel like she could have gotten so much more out of him. If she got this much out of him, I know that there's so much more that she probably could have done. But that's neither here nor there, because of her own past and whatnot. But it just really bothered me to see that she had this genius in her house. She did what she could do, but it was like, man, if he could have been in something a little more stable, and not saying you got to have this 2-parent best house, she did the best that she could from what she knew, but it just felt so like, I really wish she could have just came and stayed with us, or something along those lines, because it just felt like he was forever having to fight. Even with his coaches and with it was adults that were giving him the most trouble, including his own home environment. So even with her boyfriend and all, it was a lot. Like I said, the book is heavy, but it was so much. And I just hate that he had to endure a lot of that. Yeah, it made him a great person. He's stronger as a result of it. But I just feel like, why do we always have to be so strong? Why can't we just have a nice
Soft life.
smooth. Yeah, I want him to have a soft life because it felt like it was a lot of trauma and a lot of
Uh,
things, that he experienced as a result of neglect and abuse. And
Yeah.
it stemmed from his mother from the beginning. And I feel like that had a lot to do with his weight. That was the way he, an addiction, that's the way you deal with it is you suppress it through other things. So it was
Yeah.
like yeah.
That's good. Isaiah, Kim, any thoughts on just that kind of the dynamic of their relationship? The son mother relationship that kind of was a common theme. Again, the book was
mm-hmm.
written as a letter from him to his
His
mother.
mom, correct.
But yeah, what do you guys' thoughts or opinions about that?
Okay, I was going to touch on that as well. So I don't know if we stated that, but it was written in second person to his mom.
Right.
Basically, his life story or how he was raised as well. But his mom she wasn't a dummy. Now, this is a highly
Yeah.
intelligent, college educated, PhD woman as well too.
Mhm.
But she struggled like anybody else can struggle. But a funny story that before I get into why she struggled was like his mom was so fancy, had these little bitty pickles in the refrigerator. Like that's all we got in our refrigerator. We don't have anything else but where's our groceries there? Like that was funny to me. But like I said though, even though she was educated, she had her own struggles with control,
Mhm.
gambling, the way people perceive her as well too. And a lot of the struggles, I think that she took it out on him of making him a better person, that didn't want him to go through the struggles that she went through, but didn't know that he was writing his own memoir based on how you was treating him or how he felt, from
Mhm.
these situations as well. And, despite growing up in that household and just seeing her go through those things, just imagine. Like I think Kim touched on this as well too. Like you're making $18,000 in a fellowship, making less than your parent, less than your mom, but you have to send money home. Only to realize that the money that you think that you're sending home to your mom to make the situation better was she had a gambling addiction. Nothing was being paid. You're sitting here watching your mom gamble her life away in the casino, and just imagine the impact that had on him as a child, of the way that we control our finances, the way that we see relationships, the way that we
Mhm.
view business. Like Laria said, environment is every single thing. And just that complex relationship that he had with his mom, the up and down, the I don't want to say beatings, the abuse that he actually had growing up, like that was a lot. That was a lot, and it was heavy, as well. But like Laria said, like why do we have to go through these types of situations to make us the best person? But I think that's his life story. He learned from that, he grew from that. And I don't think in his writings or his other books that if y'all would read them, like he don't take that bitterness with him. He's trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what I most connected with him about, was that he can make the best out of any situation as well too. And even though his mom was going through the things that he was going through, he poured so much love onto her. Like, I don't care how much you beat me, I think you not talking to me or is the greatest you know impact of me not being the best person I can be. I'd rather you to hit me, but I still want that loving relationship with you. It was complex and it was toxic, but it was their relationship,
Yeah.
and it was heavy.
Yeah. No, that's good. Kim, any thoughts on, I guess, just the dynamic of this mother son relationship that was kind of conveyed throughout this book, Heavy by Kiese Layman.
Well, Luria and Isaiah touched on it. It is their relationship was heavy. It
Mhm.
was extremely toxic. It was funny when he was writing because you could tell like he really loves his mom, even though
She
she
Mhm.
does.
is
She does.
deeply, deeply flawed, and that he did endure that abuse as he told her in the end. But it was just what stood out to me with the relationship is just the long. I could just feel the longing he had from a child
Mhm.
up until an adult of just wanting his mother's like love and acceptance and just getting it in any kind of way, even if it was her hitting him or whatever way he could get it. It was just like he wanted it so bad. He took even the toxic levels of that kind of acceptance and love from his mother, and as
Hmm.
we said before, that spilled in his relationships as he got older. So that's just the main thing in their relationship that stuck out to me, was just how much he longed for his mother, and he just really um loved her in spite of how she treated him. And he still, even though he wrote the truth, I still think he put her still kind of in a good light in the best way he could, even telling the truth.
He
Because when
did.
I was reading, I was like, you know what? If in another timeline, a lifetime, she seemed like cool. I mean, she was like, smart and everything. I think in a different environment, like Larissa said, if she had a different environment, this story would have been totally different. But that's what just stood out to me, just the longing he had for his mother's love and acceptance.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So again, the book for the month of February, Heavy by Kiese Layman. Uh, Good read. It is heavy, so prepare yourselves. But I think it is a a story that we can probably all relate to in some regard, or know someone has maybe have gone through similar situations, of just kind of matriculating through, some of those childhood pressures of trying to, please your parents and trying to do the best that you can, how that may foster or into, your kind of young adult life and even into adulthood. So he's very transparent, very vulnerable, with his conveyance of his life here. And so, KSA Layman, we definitely appreciate you for sharing your story with the world with this book, Heavy. Look, 3 8s and a 10 from
A
your
10.
favorite four friends here on Four Friends in the Book. So if you guys haven't already, please pick up the book, check it out. It's a good read, good story. It is heavy, but we're preparing you for it. But check it
Make you
out.
stronger. Make you stronger.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. We love to read books over here on Four Friends in the Book, but we also like to have topics, discussions on just topics that may relate to the books we're reading, or just even things that are going on right now. And we're in the month of February, again, Black History Month, but bro, it's been kind of troubling. There's a lot of movement with this in the United States right now. We fresh off the Super
Oh,
Bowl,
Jesus.
Kendrick Lamar's performance.
Kendrick.
But also just even our current state of our state of this country right now. So President Trump has signed a lot of executive orders, within the first several days of him being in office. And one of the things that's been on the chopping block is, really an attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's essentially gotten rid of anything that has anything to do with DEI. He's kind of just put that on the chopping block and really has gotten away from that, from the government perspective, which has also spilled over into some of your private sector as well. You're now seeing some larger corporations that are also following suit and kind of axing their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies as well. It's kind of a contentious, topic right now because people on both sides have strong opinions about it. So of course, here on Four Friends, we want to hear what you guys have to think about that as well. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this whole DEI movement right now? Again, the president has signed several executive orders, kind of removing or getting rid of some of these things within our government. I mean, even going as far as jobs, holidays, just a whole bunch of stuff that's being enacted right now, and that's also has kind of shown itself in some large corporations like Amazon and Target, Walmart, we're Facebook. We're hearing all these things popping up there as well. So just kind of want you guys' thoughts and opinion about this whole DEI movement right now and just the life of that. And I'm gonna come to Miss Kimberly Lake to kick this topic off.
I was looking at Isaiah because Isaiah
I'll
look like
go.
look at
Are
this
you gonna
looks
defer to
like
Isaiah?
I'll go because this
I
is
feel like Isaiah might be
he
ready
looked
to
like he
rant
was
on this one.
boiling
So
over.
I know, right?
I was like,
I'll
I,
open it. Look, whoever want to jump on it, I'll open the floor up. So whoever want to jump on this one.
I think when these DEI, programs was first implemented in the 60s and the 70s, it was often voluntary because the federal government saw that, we needed extra protections in place for, our minorities. And, while they have never actually been all the way implemented, like when they are actually used, they are effective. And when some even hear this thing about DEI, I don't know why they think Black folks are the billboard for the DEI. When DEI affects everything, they're dealing with minorities, people with disabilities, veterans, and etc. And I can say this confidently because I am never a DEI hire. Has never worked on me. I can go resume for resume, skill set for skill set, and you cannot put it on me because I know what I have gotten out of the mud with God's grace. But what this administration needs to be focused on are the 4 plane crashers, these trade wars, high inflation, the expense of ads, gas prices soaring, and the FFA controllers are quitting, and it's only been 30 days. And those are the important things that need to be focused on, not the DEI people that they're trying to target, because DEI would have never been into place, especially if we were treated right, if we were allowed into these organizations, these programs, and these jobs, and these schools. So don't miss me with this DEI because I have gotten out the mud. I have known what my worth is, and that's all I'm gonna say. Well, I'm not gonna go on the rant, but it just bothers me.
I was gonna say that's that on that,
and that's that
That's
on
that
that.
and it just bothers me because we've
Yeah.
all tried to excel in our own in our job skills or whatever we go through. And don't say I've gotten to a certain place based on race. I got into a certain place because I read and I tried to excel myself and put myself in the best light to be in those positions and be at those tables to have those conversations.
Yeah, that's good.
That's very good.
Laria, Kim, any thoughts on that?
I'll just say
It's a mess.
people just like affirmative action, DEI and accessibility has benefited white women the most. But I feel
Right.
like Black
Please.
people, if you slap Black people, like if we look like we're getting ahead or look like we're getting advantage on anything, it's like if you say that, people want to pull it back. And that's not the case. I think that, like Isaiah said, people don't realize when they hear it, it's like, oh, that means a Black person's get a job that doesn't deserve a job. But
Right.
no, it's like a woman be able to take a break to breastfeed. It's a veteran that's getting able to come over into the workforce, civilian workforce, better, or it's just a whole bunch of different things that benefit
Correct.
a whole array of people. But a lot of times they framed it to where it's just Black people getting ahead, so people are like, yeah, we want to make it merit based. And just to piggyback
Correct.
off what Isaiah said, if you're gonna go by merits, Black women actually are the highest educated group in the United States. So if we're going by merit, we should have a bunch of Black women CEOs, Black women in
Exactly.
charge of everything. And that is not the case. So we
Yeah.
already don't go by merit anyway. So I just think people are going to find out how much it really has helped them in the end. And it's going to take them feeling it. And I hate that for them, but I just feel like that's just how it's just going to have to be so people can truly, truly understand this whole thing.
I hate that for them.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think you guys both bring up good points. I think this whole, like, when people hear diversity, just the first thing that comes to mind is like Black. But like diversity is so much more than that, like equity and inclusion.
Correct.
And again, we've premised the foundation of this country on being a diverse group, an immigrant nation of people from all over the place, which has helped to build this great nation, the great minds of diverse thoughts and ideals, and be this melting pot. Like, how can we say that's the foundation of our country, but now repeal or get rid of some of these things that have supposedly is what makes us great? And it's just weird that it has been shaped as this Black white issue when it's so much more than that. And I honestly think people aren't very educated on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as Kim kind of alluded to, even Isaiah, there's so much more than just this Black white notion that's being perpetuated. There are things that are put in place to try to level the playing fields, but also give opportunities across the board to just make people comfortable to accommodate certain things. Again, disabled people, veterans, just normal civil rights that everyone should have within this country. And now we want to say that things could be merit based, but we still know how influence and how things take place with that, with a lot of the, you know, like people in positions of authority, you know, putting people where they want them to be. And it's just, it's weird that we have gotten to this place now where things that have been historically put in place to make things equitable for all people, like we're like overturning just once again. I mean, I feel like it's just still so surreal that we're still in this place and this is our just current state of life right now. And we've been talking about it a lot here. I mean, we, you know, repealing some of these historical acts that have been placed within this country, and even, you know, rights for women, birth rights, all kind of stuff. And like now, this is on the chopping block as well. It's just crazy. So I do agree. I think as these things unfold, people will become more aware that it's not just a black and white issue, which is kind of how it's being sold, and I think it's gonna be a rude awakening. So, all right, coming to Rhea next. So, you have any thoughts, ideas, opinion about just the current state and the attack on this diversity, equity, and inclusion within the United States right now?
Well, I'm like, you all have said so much, which is so great. But I'm really, people don't understand reading. Everything that this man said he was going to do, he has done. He has kept his word. And it was very dangerous, and it is very dangerous not to have diversity in what you do. Because if you don't have an understanding of how something affects another person. But we talked about empathy before. These people don't care. And it's about the power. It's not even about the little man or the middle man. I mean, we can see this from the federal regulations and the things that have gone, you know, as far as you guys got to go back to work, because I believe in their minds, they think it's a lot of Black people that work in federal work, so they need to be back working. I don't even think it has anything to do. It has to do with minorities. And it's sad, but I mean, hey, we're here, and it's not going to change until we, you know, I feel like, and it's gonna sound weird, but I feel like it's putting us in a place as Black people where we need to be, which is doing business with one another, which is making sure that we bring up ourselves. And I'm not saying we can't do things with other races, but we lost that whole, you know, we're trying to fit in when we're really born to stand out. And I think that we've got to go back to what worked for us prior to integration and really build ourselves, because there's not going to be a seat at the table, is what they're basically telling us. You won't have a seat. So we just need to go and build our own table. And I'm just I'm over it. I'm done. I was done after 3 days.
3 days.
I'm like, I mean, diversity. I really want them to start saying that I do not believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, not DEI, because that just sounds like a cop out. And if you don't know what DEI is, you automatically, like you all said, you assume it's just minorities, because right now we're on a minority rant or trying to get rid of minorities, even though the president and the vice president are both married to minority women, which is a whole nother story. But it's just odd. I understand what they're doing because of the racism, and that's really what it boils down to. And that's what we just got to call it. It's a spade. It's racism. It got nothing to do with, you don't want us to, it's racism. We want, and one of Trump's supporters, he even said it, you know, white men should run everything. I forgot the guy's name. He said it like blatant, and that's what they believe, and that's what they're going to. So, you know, it's other ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and we just need to go back to doing what we used to do, and just building our own stuff. So, you know.
Nah, that's good, and I hope, as you mentioned, that this can be a lesson for everyone. You know, for people to be more aware and conscious of what these efforts are, but also for people to kind of use this as a wake up call to kind of empower others to kind of, you know, do something different as well, or to, you know, facilitate new opportunities for ourselves to make things better, because, you know, it seems like our government is not really supporting, some of the things that were historically put in place to have an equitable and inclusive country for all, and
Right.
even to have diversity and diverse, you know, thoughts and opinions and ideas, because again, that was the foundation of what this country is supposed to be,
Right.
predicated on, and now we're trying to get away from that, which is kind of weird. So
I did want to say one thing I forgot. Look, what I forgot to say, what I wanted to say
Me too.
was the ignorance behind it is just because you're black, you're going to get the job. And it's,
Right.
or just because you're black, you're going to get into the institution. When
Right.
you, to get in those positions, you have to have high standard, your education has to be there. All of it's just saying we want to put somebody in the position with the same qualifications of what we're seeking to be, in the school or in the workforce, but they've got this thought like anybody, Joe Schmo, could come off the street and just get a job
Right.
because they're black or a minority or whatever. And that's not the case. That's why I said ignorance is just, and for some people, they want to remain ignorant so they don't have to be held to a higher standard. But that
That's
was my
true.
other thing. I'm done now. Okay.
nah, it's good. 'Cause I mean, we talked about this stuff before, and I feel like we've talked about it so many other times. I mean, we talked about
Mhm.
college admissions and how that stuff is going, where you have
Yeah,
legacy admit. So again, that's not merit based. Like that's based on
it's not.
whatever, your family history. We talk about nepotism and how people are being put into positions just again based off of family association. So
Hmm.
these things aren't merit based, and so yeah, we ain't look. Everybody about to
We
rant
gotta,
on this
I
episode.
know, we gotta keep our jobs. Y'all ain't gonna pull
Look,
me all the way in now because I can go. I can go.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, look, we gonna put a fork in that one for right now. But yeah,
We'll talk
again,
offline.
After the show. After
After
the
the
Yeah,
show.
we'll
show.
have it after the show.
After the
yeah,
show.
look, four friends after dark.
Right. Right.
All right. So again, we just wrapped up the book Heavy by Kiese Layman for the month of February. Highly rated here on Four Friends. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. And just had a great discussion about just some of these executive orders, mandates centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion within the United States. Kind of the impact, maybe hopefully some of the lessons learned, and just even just the ideas that are kind of associated with these things. So would love to hear from you guys as well. If you have any thoughts, any opinions, hit us up in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys as far as what you thought about this book and also what you think about just diversity, equity, and inclusion as a whole, not only here in the United States, but just universally. Because again, that shouldn't just be a United States thing. That's
Correct.
humanity as a whole. We need to have you know diversity of thought, equity and inclusion for all people to accommodate. Because again, we're here to kind of serve and be of service of others, and we can't just single out certain people and think that it should be only one class of people that are ruling or ruling class of
Right.
people, and so we've learned from history that doesn't work, and
It doesn't.
hopefully we learned our lesson. All right. So it's time. Let's transition a little bit. We already had our little. We've been having mini rants in this whole little episode, but now it's time for the official rant from Mr. Rant Man himself, and our favorite segment of Four Friends in the Book, which we entitle "The Rant," where we give my good brother 60 seconds to kind of speak from his heart. Like we don't debate it, we don't contest it. Just whatever he wants to talk about. He might want to talk about this DEI and expand a little bit further. I don't really know. We never know what we're gonna get. But my brother, the floor is yours. So 60 seconds starting now. Go.
In honor of Black History Month, let's highlight Dr. Alvin Chapman, whose journey is rooted in faith, service, and dedication. Dr. Chapman pursued his passion for science and medicine, earning a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Albany State University, and later a doctor of medical dentistry degree from the Medical College of Georgia. His career began with service as a dental officer in the U.S. Navy, followed by a long tenure in family dentistry. Dr. Chapman was one of the first Black dentists in Middle Georgia, where he practiced for 42 years. His career not only shaped him into being a skilled healthcare provider, but also a visionary business leader. He has also believed that his purpose is greater than himself and that his talent should be used to serve others. He has served as the president of the board of directors at his church and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. He continues to live with purpose and remains dedicated to giving back to the community, mentoring future healthcare professionals, and sharing his wisdom with the next generation. Throughout his life, Dr. Chapman has learned that success is not just personal, but it's about lifting others up. He can be quoted saying, "Remember the shoulder that has helped you and make sure that your own shoulders help elevate someone else." And that's that on that.
That's good. Look, shout out to Dr. Alvin Chapman. Look, local Black history here in Middle Georgia. And again, uh, we often think of these historical moments and figures as being something massive, but I'm pretty sure we all know people that are doing things locally that are and that exude Black history. And so shout out to Dr. Chapman and salute to you, sir, this Black History Month. All right, so just wrapped up everything, the book, the discussion, the rant. So Isaiah, tell them what we have in store for next month here on Four Friends in a Book.
Hey guys, before we let you go, next month we're going to be kicking out Women's History Month by reading The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, and you do not want to miss it. Laria, please tell the viewers when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to have you.
And if you're on social media, make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button.
Absolutely. And for our podcast viewers, leave us a comment or review there. We love to get that feedback from you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hit us up, leave us that 5-star review as well. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow. Let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in a Book. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.